Maasai Mara in Kenya, Africa's big cat capital. The highest density of African lions, leopards and cheetahs on the continent, sharing one ecological corridor. Tano Bora, a coalition of 5 male cheetahs, has just taken a 200-kilogram eland. When African lion arrives, they yield without a fight. The battle for survival here runs on rules that speed cannot override. Cheetah survival inside this savage kingdom is not secured through strength. Their mothers, 3 species, will prove it. Dry season hit the Maasai Mara early this year. Soil along the western fringe has cracked open. This cheetah alliance has held around 800 square kilometers across 2 seasons. For a female seeking a mate, this scent is the strongest cue she can detect at distance. Female cheetah don't select partners randomly. 5 male scent signatures reveal range and numbers. But nothing about reflexes or movement quality. Any male too slow to respond won't be chosen. The one who moves fastest with most confidence is the male shaped by the same survival pressures that shaped her. Her name is Akili, intelligence in Swahili. From that moment, 90 to 95 days begin counting down. Cheetah gestation is markedly shorter than other big cats. Lions need 110 days. Leopards need 100. Cheetah 90 to 95. By weeks 4 and 5, Achilles' center of gravity shifts. The cheetah's spine, a structure that generates speed by coiling like a spring. As the belly expands, full range of motion is lost. Peak speed drops. In a hunt, the gap between fast enough and not fast enough is so narrow that numbers can't capture how severe that drop is. Over the next 2 weeks, Akili makes 2 hunt attempts. Akili fails both. A pregnant cheetah grows hungry faster and hunts harder. A paradox each one must endure. No shortcuts exist. Meanwhile, south of the plain, in dense croton scrub near the Mara River, a second mother is making her own decision. Her name is Subira, patience in Swahili. For 3 days now, she has been proving it the hard way. Each cub weighs around 1.2 to 1.5 kilograms, a 20th of their mother, fully dependent on her milk for protein, fat, and hydration. Subira's energy needs rise around 30% during nursing. She hasn't eaten in 3 days. If Subira leaves to hunt, every minute away opens a window for hyenas, strange males, anything. If she stays, her body depletes, milk diminishes, and both cubs face the same end. Subira stays. Same morning, Akili carries the weight of one choice. Subira carries the weight of another, both waiting for entirely different things. Subira has endured hunger longer than any of her counterparts. 2 weeks. A lone lioness succeeds on just 17 to 19% of hunts. A pride achieves 30% or more. Subira is working against those numbers alone. She spots a young wildebeest grazing at the herd's edge. She eats for 9 minutes. That's all the time she has. For the first time in 48 hours, they feed enough. For the first time in 2 weeks, Subira can close her eyes without calculating. All big cat species are born looking unlike their adult selves. Lion cubs carry faint spots at birth. This isn't a developmental accident, it's functional visual misdirection. Predators are wired to recognize a species' signature pattern. But one species takes this further. The mimicry isn't just color. It reshapes the entire coat. Achille has pulled off something remarkable. The silver coat on her 5 cubs' backs isn't random. The Cheetah Conservation Fund proposes this. The dorsal mane of cheetah cubs mimics the honey badger, a species widely known as aggressively. But that protective coat won't hold. As adult spots emerge beneath, while the silver mane falls away. This will be the most exposed moment. Subira has a pride behind her when she needs it. Achille has no one. That gap determines everything that follows. 3 weeks after birth, Achille detects an unfamiliar scent from the southwest at dawn. Another female cheetah nearing the buffer zone. After leaving their mothers, female cheetahs maintain no social bonds with each other. No tolerance for overlap during critical periods. It isn't temperament, it's reproductive competition. 2 females in the same zone means 2 cub sets competing for the same prey. As cubs grow, the female entering the southwest buffer zone is pregnant, belly gently swollen around week 8. She may not have known Achille was here. Or maybe she did. The confrontation lasts under 2 minutes. Achille has home advantage. She knows every stretch of grass, every rise, every wind direction here. Callie, one of 2 dominant males controlling the southern sector, is on patrol when the sounds of the cheetah clash reach him. Not urgently, not with clear purpose, but a patrolling lion never ignores something worth checking, and out here, anything qualifies. Callie weighs 190 kilograms. In male lions, a black mane develops fully only at peak testosterone. Typically ages 7 to 12. Callie knows who he is. He patrols this range with the certainty of something nothing here would dare challenge directly. The most asked question about male lions and cheetahs: why kill? Not from hunger. Lions don't eat cheetahs. Fewer cheetahs in the territory raises the odds that lion cubs survive to adulthood. No exceptions exist when survival pressure has operated across enough generations. Achille picks up Kali's scent at around 300 meters. First response of any animal threatened while young are nearby. Run to the cubs. Place yourself between them and the threat. This instinct overrides. Achille holds this gap, close enough to hold Kali's interest. Not so far, he turns back toward his original route, and not toward the coalition territory to the south. While Achille draws Kali east in the reed grass she chose as a den, one of the 4 remaining cubs stirs. Curiosity, hunger, or simply the need to move after Callie finds the den. And cubs that haven't lived long enough to know what to fear. Achille returns when the sun has shifted. She stands completely still. A new den. Now. Before the sun moves another hour, the Maasai Mara doesn't pause. And Achille can't pause. The ability to recognize enlarged predators builds through experience. Learning a rule means familiar patterns get classified fast. An unfamiliar pattern creates a brief pause, closer look, assessment, deliberation. In the transition from weeks 8 to 10, cheetah cubs will carry an appearance unfamiliar to any predator on this grassland. But unfamiliar operates on a probability curve, not a certainty. A predator hungry enough, motivated enough, can override that hesitation. Achilles' behavioral shifts aren't because this phase becomes safer with extra vigilance, but because staying alert is the one thing she can control. Hunt runs go shorter, no more than 2 to 3 kilometers. Enough to hunt, not enough to lose the cubs from scent range. A new den site every 2 to 3 days instead of 4 to 5. A less used location is harder to pinpoint from distance. Each behavioral shift maps exactly to a vulnerability in the cub's developmental stage. This flexibility is one of the most remarkable adaptations in cheetah motherhood. 8 kilometers away, deep in canopy along the Mara River, Siri is solving the camouflage problem on entirely different terms. The leopard's rosette pattern isn't decoration. It's structural mimicry of forest light, pale center, dark border, exactly the pattern of light through a forest canopy. This is structural camouflage, breaking visual recognition at the first processing layer. When a sub-adult lioness on patrol along the Mara River forest edge, one of Subira's pride, detects movement in the undergrowth, the lioness is certain a leopard is nearby. What she doesn't know is how many. Both sides of this predator standoff are calculating simultaneously. The lioness weighs the cost of climbing unfamiliar terrain. The leopard cubs rely entirely on stillness. The lioness shifts gears entirely. A clear hunting shot may be worth more than chasing an unseen threat. The gazelle had no role in this confrontation. Yet it ended the encounter. This is how the food chain functions. not in straight lines, but in a web of unintended consequences.
Tá, geral, passei por uma pinta relativamente.
Rain on the Maasai Mara isn't just water. It's an ecological signal that restarts the whole system. The Mara grass begins growing again. Herbivores shift with food. The cheetah, a species that hunts by sight and sprints on open ground. Tall grass is a geometry problem with no good solution. Footstep vibrations travel farther on wet ground. Prey alerts earlier. Hunt success in tall grass is far lower than on open plain, and a killie must hunt daily for 4 cubs whose caloric demand grows every week. This isn't poor skill. It's an environmental constraint on a predator optimized for a specific terrain type. The cheetah's flexible spine generates horizontal speed by coiling and extending. That same structure can't provide the torque for vertical climbing. This is a trade-off: gain in horizontal speed, loss in vertical mobility. A body built for sprinting can't haul prey up a tree. Siri isn't struggling today. She has solved food security through a mechanism cheetahs lack. A 50-kilogram impala cached 4 meters up is out of reach for hyenas and lions. A properly cached carcass can feed for 3 to 4 days without another hunt. But caching is a skill, not a guarantee. The curiosity of Siri's oldest male cub creates an ironic twist. The young male wants to fix his mistake, but he's still far too small to haul the prey back. Fortunately, Mum returns. Wild dogs, with 80% success and cooperative tactics, are formidable on the ground. Siri has the advantage. She can grip the prey and climb back. Among 3 predators across the same broad zone along the Mara River corridor, none has an easy life. They're merely easy in different ways and carry risk at different points. Cheetahs must hunt daily, yet can't protect their catch. Leopards have more reliable food, but depend on vertical space. Wild dogs, 80% success. And that, on closer look, is the key distinction. Not hunting skill or body size, but how each manages its relationship with the others. Wild dogs have an 80% hunt success rate, highest of all large carnivores on the savannah, but their kill theft rate is also among the highest. Real-world efficiency: hunt 10 times at 80%, but keep only 3 to 4 meals. A prayer of faith, a prayer of meals, but pay the cost of vertical climbing energy and accidents like today's. Cheetahs hunt daily because there's no other way to compensate for 40 to 60% of fresh kills loss except through volume. 3 strategies for the same survival pressure. No perfect answer, but all 3 work well enough. The species are still here. The buffer zone between lion territories isn't wasted land. It's space created by the structure of lion defense itself. A large pride actively defends its core range because the resources there, prey density, water, den sites, are valuable enough to justify territory edges and buffer zones. Carry lower resource density. Prey moves through but doesn't concentrate. No reliable water, no established den sites. For cheetah, this is exactly the right condition. Every area with better prey density also carries higher apex predator density. Buffer zones don't. The active teaching phase, when Achilles' behavior shifts from providing and protecting to demonstrating and allowing failure, is one of the most critical periods. Lion cubs in a pride have 12 months to 2 years learning from multiple adult hunters. Leopard cubs 1 to 1.5. Cheetah cubs must reach full independence in territory where prey doesn't concentrate. A different teaching method is required. Each attempt with prey matched to current skill is a data point. Data points accumulate into the same neural pathway. After enough repetition, first lesson: water. Achille drinks, and the 4 cubs follow. Their mother's behavior is their most critical guide. They watch. The hunting training runs 3 tiers. Tier 1. Full observation of a hunt, from stalk to capture. Tier 2. Practice on smaller prey in favorable terrain, with Achille ready to finish if the attempt fails. Tier 3. Watching only, challenging prey like warthogs. The most critical skill in the entire program, knowing when not to try. Cheetahs reach full independence at 18 to 24 months. The gap between first attempt and reliable competence is wide. Every repetition narrows it. Nine weeks of walking alone in the wilderness. This lioness's struggle is far more than a test of patience. It's a race against time. In solitude, every hunting day is a gamble where the odds are stacked against her. Every missed strike means another day empty. Sabira is visibly losing weight. The energy spent nursing and walking long miles has overwhelmed the meager protein she manages. The loss of her 2 cubs wasn't random misfortune. In an unforgiving wild, it's the grim, predictable price for a solitary mother walking. The 15-kilometer journey back to Pride territory doesn't follow a straight line. Pace is set by 9-week-old cubs, strong enough to move, but not yet. Each observation stop is an investment of time, reducing the chance of an unexpected encounter. Under Subira's current state, Cortazal's social structure has backed Maasai and his younger brother into a corner. Just two brothers aren't enough to form a powerhouse. The two wandering brothers are robust, skilled hunters, but they lack queens. This clearly isn't a welcome surprise. They want the lioness, but not the cub. Lucky for them, she's alone. But Subira is no pushover. Without their mother, her two cubs lose their ultimate shield. The nomadic males take full advantage. By the time the heartbroken mother calls, the worst has passed. Only one cub answers and comes back. How many more will she lose to those raiders? Aching and exhausted, Subira still guides her remaining cub back to the pride. And then a scent catches her attention. The scent of prey. A freshly prepared meal. The male cheetah, a set After days without food, cortisol has spiked high in her body, paralyzing her rational brain. But the 5 cheetah brothers don't back down. The old law of the savannah only holds for a mighty pride. Not an exhausted, solitary female. As Subira charges in, something unprecedented in this coalition's history happens. They refuse to yield. A breathless clash erupts. Science shows when a predator endures prolonged stress, The brain stops computing logic and runs on primal instinct. A Subira at her prime would need 3 seconds to see those 300 kilograms of cheetah are too risky and retreat. Today, she doesn't have that clarity. Right on cue, Kali crests from the south in under 2 minutes. He doesn't need to know what's unfolding, but the distress roar is enough. Kali's black mane on the horizon is more than enough. The cheetah pack calculates nothing further. This is what a pride provides, a structure solid enough to lean on when a member can't stand alone. That's exactly what Achille lacks. And that's what, one day, will make all the difference. A 2.5-year-old lioness moves northeast on patrol. Still proving herself, still learning what territory means. Her nose catches something unfamiliar, a cheetah's scent trail. But on the other side, Achille has already sensed the approaching threat. A masterclass in distraction. As the predator has to pick a target, Achille makes a wholly unexpected move. Achille knows she can't win head-to-head, but her sole aim is to stop her rival in her tracks. This audacity makes the lioness pause. Not enough to cause lasting harm, but enough to freeze her rival at a decisive moment. Out in the open, any acceleration by the lioness is completely futile. From 4 hidden points, high-pitched chirps ring out. One by one, all 4 cubs are safe. Six months is just enough to redefine the fate of Achilles' 4 youngsters. From a distance, they already carry the look of future speed champions. For the 3 male cubs, survival leaves no room for sentiment. A brotherhood coalition isn't born from affection, but from nature's cold calculus. Meanwhile, the lone female must enter a different chapter: solitude. Not driven away, but because a 1,000,000-year-old Genetic imperative demands it. One day, that young female will stand on a hill. Quietly watching a male coalition on the horizon, walking in her mother's footsteps. Only 7,000 cheetahs remain worldwide. And up to 77% must survive outside official protected areas. Instinct doesn't build fences. Cheetahs carry a heavy historical burden. A genetic bottleneck from 10,000 years ago left 98 to 99% of their DNA identical across the entire species. Cheetahs survive today not because nature favors them, but through absolute precision. Every millisecond of a strike, every calculated risk. When their corridors are fragmented by fences and farmland, cheetahs lose the paths to follow prey. Cornered, they're forced into conflict. As dusk falls over the northern Mara, the five-brother coalition appears on the horizon. Returning to where the story began. 7,000, and still declining. But today, in the swaying grass of the Maasai Mara, the world just gained 4 new glimmers of hope. There are lands where geography doesn't just shape the landscape. It lays down the law. Nandutu is one of them, a small corner of the Serengeti, Tanzania, where 3 ecosystems meet. The short grass plains to the south, the woodland fringe along the lake, and a year-round water source that never dries. That convergence creates something no other place can match. An unusually high prey density. Doesn't merely attract predators. It holds all of them in the same space, at the same time every day. Lion, hyena, leopard, and cheetah. Craig Packer, the researcher who has followed the Serengeti Lion Project for more than cast. Because it's intense enough to document what elsewhere remains only prediction. In most observations, the hierarchical order functions as programmed. Cheetahs yield when lions arrive. Hyenas retreat when enough male lions are present. Leopards vanish into trees. But there are moments when that order breaks. Cheetah cubs at birth aren't miniature versions of the adult. That is an evolutionary defense mechanism by design, but that mechanism has limits. Mortality in the first 3 months runs from 50 to 70%. In areas with high predator density, this is the survival pressure that 3 million years of evolution has produced a range of coping mechanisms to address, not enough to eliminate the risk, but enough to tilt probability slightly toward survival. The typical sound of cheetah cubs is one of the least known but most sophisticated adaptations. This call is produced at a frequency range and intensity level optimized to carry. When all other defensive options are gone, the freeze response under. This is also what observers usually misread. A cheetah cub lying completely still in the grass isn't sleepy or injured. It is listening, detecting, without producing movement signals to defend itself, in its own defense. Cheetah isn't the species that needs the most a sea or the largest home range. The state of the world sea sheds. Open grassland with grass height between 30 and 50 centimeters. low enough to allow prey detection from a distance, tall enough to provide concealment. During the stalk phase, any deviation from that range, grass too tall from rains, too sparse from drought, and cheetah hunting efficiency falls in a way leopard or lion can't match. Namibia is the largest stronghold, more than 50% of the remaining global population. But even in Namibia, cheetah live in constant tension with farmers. Cheetah don't prioritize livestock as prey. But when wild prey density is low and livestock are accessible, incidents occur and conflict becomes unavoidable. The food chain here works like a network of pressures, conflict points. And cheetah needs space with open terrain, accessible prey, and large predator density low enough to avoid constant displacement. When those three conditions converge, cheetah thrive. More than 5,000 years ago, in ancient Egypt, cheetah were symbols of power and divinity. Unlike many other animal symbols in Egyptian civilization, cheetah weren't truly domesticated. Pharaohs kept them because their presence. The goddess Maftid, protector of justice and law, in Egyptian mythology, bore the cheetah's image because this species' agility and precision. In the Mughal Empire of India, Emperor Akbar kept over 1,000 trained cheetahs. What is interesting about the history of cheetah? In human culture isn't how long that relationship lasted, but how it ended. Not because humans abandoned cheetah, but because the cheetah population collapsed. To the point where there were no longer enough individuals to sustain that relationship. The cheetah's range once stretched from Africa to the Middle East and India. Today, it covers less than 280,000 square miles, less than 10% of historical habitat. Humans once kept more than 1,000 individuals in a palace, while the entire wild population today is approximately 7,000 individuals. The direct consequence of what humanity has done to the landscape's cheetah needs to survive. This Kalahari poses one question to every creature that lives within it. What will you become when there is not enough? The Kalahari is not a desert in the climatological sense. It is a landscape of an entirely different kind. The Kalahari receives between 150 and 500 millimeters of rain each year, depending on region and season. No one month is guaranteed water. No season is stable enough for any species to build its strategy around a calendar. This is a qualitatively different survival challenge from stable environments. Not how to survive when food is scarce, but how to survive. Kalahari sand is red from iron oxide. Millions of years of weathering concentrated in the top layer. Even after the heaviest rain, the surface dries within hours. Surface water pans are small clay-lined hollows across the landscape. Clay doesn't drain. When rain falls, water collects in these hollows and stays. They only need to know which pan holds water and wait. When a pan fills, interspecies conflict becomes unavoidable. Spotted hyenas arrive before dawn, when darkness still gives enough cover for a silent approach. Lions arrive to find hyenas already present, not because they need to drink at the same hour, but because the scent and sound of hyenas at the pan signals that water is here. This cheetah approaches from a different direction, further out, more cautious. The only one of the three without a defensive weapon if the encounter turns direct. Prey drink in time windows. No window is truly safe. But some windows carry lower risk than others. Over generations, grazers have learned, not through reasoning, but because animals that failed to learn left no offspring. Hours of the day carry the lowest probability of meeting a predator at the pan. The schedule of the pan becomes the schedule of the entire ecosystem. This is not a metaphor. It is a physical system. Water determines when and where every encounter takes place. Acacia defines the structural framework of the Kalahari. Not because of its size or drama, but because it does two things no other plant in the region does as well. First, its roots penetrate 4 to 15 meters, reaching groundwater that no rainfall can touch. Second, acacia forms a symbiosis with nitrogen-fixing bacteria in its roots, generating fertilizer from atmospheric nitrogen and enriching the surrounding soil. This creates a local microclimate. Soil under an acacia canopy is richer in nitrogen, more moisture retentive, and shaded from direct solar radiation. Termites build colonies in the acacia-enriched soil. Meerkats dig burrows. The Kalahari is not impoverished in species variety. It distributes biodiversity in ways a passing observer cannot immediately see. Most of the Kalahari's living activity does not occur above ground. It happens below. Meerkats live in underground burrow systems with multiple escape exits, separate sleeping chambers, and natural ventilation through intersecting tunnels. Aardvarks excavate chambers up to 2 meters deep, leaving behind unused burrow systems that warthogs, porcupines, and African wildcats subsequently occupy. The bait-eared fox, with hearing sharp enough to detect termites gnawing under 5 centimeters of soil, is among the most specialized hunters in the Kalahari. It does not chase, does not ambush, only listens and digs. Beneath the surface lies a parallel natural tier, less dramatic to the eye, but no less rich in function. The lions of the Kalahari are unlike the lions of the Serengeti, not in form, but in strategy and pride structure. A lioness in the Maasai Mara can sustain herself within a territory of 20 square kilometers, where prey density is high and predictable. A lioness in the Kalahari needs a territory many times larger, sometimes hundreds of square kilometers, because prey disperses according to where and when the pans fill. Kalahari prides are smaller, fewer members sharing limited food. hunting strategies. This same species, two different landscapes, two biological machines refined in different directions by the same pressure, scarcity. This Kalahari teaches this lesson by carving it into every body that lives within it. Scarcity does not kill, at least not directly. It designs. It removes everything unnecessary and retains only what is efficient enough to survive today. The result is an habitat system so lean it borders on the irrational. Nothing wasted, nothing surplus, nothing that can be removed without leaving a gap. Some species show their answers before you know what the question is. Some horns nearly a meter long, curving back in the arc of a Persian sword. A white each feature answers a question. The Sahel, the semi-arid belt south. How can so many different grazing species live on the same grassland without competing to extinction? Without competing to extinction. The answer isn't peace. The answer is division of labor. Zebra arrive first. Their teeth process tall, dry, tough grass stems. The kind most other species can't digest efficiently. When zebra move on, shorter, newer grass is exposed. Wild beast arrive next, preferring grass at medium height. After wild beast, Thompson's gazelle and impala arrive to graze the remaining young shoots. 3 species, 3 different grass tiers. No direct competition. This isn't coincidence. But the neonatal period isn't the highest risk moment in a cheetah's life cycle. That is the period beginning when cheetahs separate from the mother and ending when a territory is established. A phase that usually lasts 6 to 12 months. With no official name in most literature. But which can be called the dispersal window. A cheetah leaves its mother carrying a library, thousands of hours of observation. But all those skills were built for a specific landscape, a territory learned and memorized. When stepping beyond that territory, the library is still there, but the index is gone. This is the most dangerous gap in a cheetah's life. on a territory held by a long-established coalition. Scent signals along the boundary aren't merely declarations of ownership. They are information about those who have been here longer. Who have encoded the landscape into memory across thousands of hunts. They falter during the window before those skills can be put to real use. The gap between what their mother taught them and what the real world actually demands. Each year, the wildebeest herd must cross the Mara River at least 4 times in a single season. For the next generation, Nile crocodiles had been gathering here for weeks. Nile crocodiles live to 60 years. The largest have memorized this crossing point since before they learned to hunt. The chaos of the river crossing, crocodiles live to 60 years. The largest have remembered this crossing since they were smaller than a child's arm. What viewers usually read as chaos is actually a structure with its own logic. The herd may stand at the bank for several hours. Crowd dynamics build pressure from behind. At a certain density threshold, no individual makes a conscious decision. The herd simply crosses. Most cross safely, and the journey continues. This isn't the end of the story. This is the midpoint of a cycle with no day of rest. The Maasai Mara is home to 5 large predator species existing simultaneously. Don't flap, they soar. Over tropical grasslands, sunlight creates columns of hot air rising from the ground, thermals. Ripple's vulture can reach 8,000 meters on these air columns, circling from that altitude. Their eyes resolve details smaller than a coin from 300 meters. When one vulture descends, others across the entire region read that behavior as a signal. Within 15 minutes, a carcass and raw several dozen vultures from a territory they don't merely eat, They're the sanitation system of the savannah. After predators and vultures are done, other species are still waiting their turn. Ravens and hawks pick what remains from the bones. Foxes and honey badgers eat what remains. Dung beetles roll dung from every passing animal back to their underground chambers. Soil bacteria break down the final remains. Molecules return to minerals. Minerals, energy has traveled from sunlight through a blade of grass, through wildebeest. A complete cycle. No definitive beginning or end. Only the ceaseless flow of energy. Every living thing on the Mara, from blade of grass to lion to vulture, is a link in that chain. This is a reflex mechanism. A governing rule of the savage kingdom, whatever species. Two male cheetah don't at once register what has happened. Testosterone at peak creates a narrowing of attention. Such that no external information below a certain threshold can penetrate. This is the cost of reproductive focus at its most extreme. Efficient enough until lion and cheetah don't compete for the same prey group. Lions prefer buffalo, zebra, wildebeest. Cheetahs prefer small, fast Thompson's gazelle. Direct competition isn't enough to explain the level of aggression. The answer lies elsewhere. Female cheetah, under the right encounter conditions, are capable of attacking lion cubs when adult lion are absent. Not often, but enough for survival pressure to accumulate across many generations. Therefore, individual lion with the behavior of eliminating rival spotted cats when the opportunity arises pass on genes across more generations of lion cubs than those without that behavior. That's why Ndutu became a place to document ordinary battles in their most extreme form. Before any hunt, before any animal, there was grass. There was grass. More than 40 native species, spread across 30,000 each. Occupying a distinct ecological niche. Themida triandra on well-drained slopes. Pennisetum mesianum fills the moisture-retaining hollows. Digitaria macroblephera colonizes the disturbed edges where other grasses can't root. All doing the same thing, converting sunlight into energy. 1 hectare of Mara grass produces 8 tons, enough to support more than 2 million large mammals. Every calorie in this ecosystem, from the energy in a wildebeest's muscle to the roar of a male lion, originates in sunlight, passing through a blade of grass. But the Maasai Mara isn't a stable landscape. It's a system defined by variation. Rain comes twice a year, March to May, October to December. Between those 2 seasons, dry enough for the grass to thin around the few remaining points. It's the engine. It's why everything moves, that a stable environment never produces. When rain arrives after drought, seeding in coordination with the rainfall cycles of the Great Rift Valley. And that signal travels far. Wild beasts detect the scent of fresh grass. When that signal spreads southward, millions move. There is a paradox at the center of the grass ecosystem. The species that graze the animals that graze the most are the animals the grass needs most. Grass that is cut, not uprooted, regenerates faster than untouched grass. Light reaches the base more effectively. There is no phenomenon on Earth of this scale. 1,300,000 wildebeests. 500,000 Thompson's gazelles. 200,000 zebras, moving in a northward arc. From the short grass plains of the southern Serengeti in Tanzania to the Maasai Mara in Kenya, nearly 2,000 kilometers. This is a dynamic response to rainfall. Wildebeests don't have a map. They follow their noses, following the scent of fresh grass. When rain falls on the Mara in July, that signal spreads southward. And millions begin to move. Ecologically speaking, this is the largest nutrient distribution mechanism on the continent. Each wildebeest carries grass seeds on its coat and in its dung. The Maasai Mara solves that problem 5 ways simultaneously. Lions are nocturnal generalists. Body size lets them take buffalo, zebra. Leopards don't compete horizontally. They withdraw vertically, operating in tree terrain. Sleeping and eating in the canopy. African wild dogs choose speed and endurance. "50 kilometers per hour, sustained over 5 kilometers. No other predator on the Mara has that capacity. Spotted hyenas are generalists. In both the literal and ecological sense. They hunt, often more efficiently than lions, but also scavenge. Digesting, cheetahs are specialists in explosive speed. A 50% success rate before accounting for kleptoparasitism. These 5 species don't merely share space, They also divide time. Before dawn, lion and hyena, the ones finishing the long night. Early morning, wild dog and cheetah, two daytime species that prioritize vision over darkness. Midday, nearly all rest. "40-degree temperatures make hunting energetically inefficient. Late afternoon, cheetah again, and sometimes leopard. Night, lion. The apparent chaos of the savannah is actually a schedule. Balanced across millions of years of survival pressure. Being a predator isn't a position of privilege. It's a job with enormous energy costs. And a high failure rate. Lions succeed on around 20 to 25% of hunts. That's 3 in 4 efforts ending with nothing. Leopards succeed 40% of the time. But only with small prey. Wild dogs, the highest rate, more than 80% when the pack is large enough. Cheetahs are a special case, around 50% success. Impressive technically. But eroded by one uncontrollable variable, kleptoparasitism. 10 to 15% of prey caught is lost to other species before the meal is finished. Every meal on the Maasai Mara isn't an endpoint. It's prey. Spotted hyenas have the worst reputation among large African predators. The strange laugh, the asymmetric body, the image of a scavenger in popular culture. The ecological reality reverses most of those perceptions. Spotted hyenas are actually research. Tracking from the 1990s shows that in the Serengeti Mara region, they hunt. What makes hyenas irreplaceable in the ecosystem is their digestive system. Hyena stomach acid is 3 times stronger than that of dogs or cats. They can digest an adult wildebeest carcass weighing 200 kilograms, will vanish completely within African vultures. A complex ecosystem, like the Maasai Mara, looks resilient. Millions of years old, but complexity doesn't equal infinite resilience. When one species disappears, this is known as trophic cascade. Yellowstone is the most thoroughly documented case. Elk overbrowsed streamside vegetation. Willows and cottonwoods collapsed. A single wolf determined the health of salmon through multiple indirect trophic links. In the Maasai Mara, the cheetah occupies a similarly vulnerable position. The global population stands below 7,000. The range and genetic diversity has fallen to the point where the entire living cheetah population a genetically uniform population is a population without resilience against emerging disease. The Maasai Mara is one of the few places on Earth where two fundamental the Maasai people have lived alongside this land for at least 300 years. Their traditional land management, known as Nkiyama, is built on seasonal rotation. Studies show that wildlife density on traditionally managed Maasai land not because the Maasai don't reshape the land, but because their method of reshaping it allows the system to recover between seasons. The 4 cheetahs Achilles spent 18 months teaching will soon depart. The males may form a coalition. The youngest female will strike out on her own. Each must find territory in a grassland growing more fragmented by the year. The statistical odds aren't favorable. But statistics aren't the final word. What the Mara ecosystem needs isn't a single heroic act from one cheetah. It needs something smaller and more durable. Protected land corridors, connecting grass. Wildebeest will still grow. The Mara River will still alive. The question isn't whether the Mara can survive without the cheetah. A Mara doesn't calculate any of this. She teaches her cubs to hunt, one attempt at a time. The Maasai Mara will still be here when the next rainy season arrives. This ecosystem doesn't need saving by a single heroic moment. It needs Every cheetah on the Mara Plains is the culmination of 3 million years of evolution. And the cycle remains. Sunlight still transforms into blades of grass, as long as the plains stay green, as long as the corridors stay open. This answer is the body of the oryx. The white coat of the scimitar-horned oryx is not an aesthetic choice, it is thermodynamics. Almost every river system on this planet tells the same story. Water flows from high ground to low, from mountains to the sea, from continent to ocean. That is the default behavior of water, a planet with gradient and gravity. This Okavango tells a different story. It rises in the highlands of Angola, crosses Botswana, and spreads across the interior of the Kalahari. There is no sea, no receiving lake, no outlet. The water arrives and stays. Wherever arise, spreads across around 22,000 square kilometers at peak flood, then slowly evaporates and percolates into the Kalahari sand over the following months. This delta has no estuary. Its geometry is determined by the tectonic structure of the Kalahari Basin, a series of ancient faults aligned northeast to southwest, creating latent water channels that the Okavango fills and withdraws from with each annual flood cycle. Geologically, this is where the African continent is slowly pulling apart. What makes the Okavango naturally distinctive is not simply its existence, it is its timing. Rain falls over Botswana between December and March. But the Okavango flood comes from rain falling in Angola, more than 1,000 kilometers to the north. Water takes 4 to 5 months to travel down through the channel system and spread across the delta. This flood peaks in the center of the delta around July, the height of Botswana's dry season. When the surrounding savanna is at its driest, grass is yellowed, surface water nearly gone, prey animals drifting in search. The Okavango floods, not gradually, completely. Ground dry the month before becomes open water. Sand islands, surrounded. This is not merely geography. It is an inversion of natural logic. Elsewhere, water and prey arrive together. Here, water arrives when everything else has run out. This Okavango becomes the only island of life in a dry ocean of sand, and everything that can move moves towards it. Elephants from Shobi, hundreds of kilometers away, begin their journey. African buffalo from Linyanti form larger than usual aggregations as animals from multiple areas converge on the same water corridor. Wildebeest and zebra from eastern grasslands approach the delta along routes that are not fixed migrations, but situational responses. Animal density around the Okavango in the dry season hits its annual common sense. That inversion of timing is the delta's core natural advantage. It is a water resource when no other exists, and so it draws every species willing to make the journey. The Sitatunga does not migrate to the Okavango. It lives there year-round and cannot live anywhere else. It is an antelope designed for a habitat most antelopes cannot survive. True swamp, just deep water. Plant life so dense that light does not penetrate. The Sitatunga's hooves are considerably longer than those of antelopes of comparable size. When standing on soft mud, they splay wide, distributing weight rather than piercing downward and becoming trapped. The ankle joints are unusually flexible, allowing a walking gait through water without losing balance on uneven ground surfaces. This coat carries a natural oil, water repellent, retaining body heat even when the lower half of the body is submerged for hours. All of these features point toward the same outcome, allowing the cheetah to move where its predators cannot follow. Lions can swim, but pursuing prey through shoulder-deep water is an option lions almost never exercise. Energy effectiveness approaches zero. The risk of losing footing and the attack position is high. Prey in water moves at roughly the same speed as a swimming lion, eliminating the speed advantage on land. The leopard, the only large cat that genuinely hunts in the Okavango swamp, poses a more serious threat to the cheetah. Leopards are more compact, ride higher in the water, and carry a grappling reflex that lions lack. But even the leopard has a depth threshold, beyond which it will not pursue. The cheetah knows that threshold, not through reasoning, but because animals that did not know it are no longer here. The tactic is not only water. Papyrus grows so densely in the Okavango channels that it forms plant life walls 4 to 5 meters high, impenetrable to sight, impassable without a known path. The cheetah lives and moves through these walls along routes it has created through months of repeated use. Underwater trails, tunnels, through the plant life, gaps wide enough for its body and narrower than a lion's self. This is a labyrinth, built not with hands, but with build-up experience. And within that labyrinth, strength, size, and speed, what make the lion an apex predator on the savanna, become nearly irrelevant. The African fish eagle rules the airspace of the Okavango in a way no other species can test. Not because it is the largest, with a wingspan of roughly 2 meters, smaller than Which creature in today's episode made you look at the wild in a whole new light? Was it the lioness Subira, stripped of her clarity by a cortisol storm, or the cheetah mother, Akili, shielding her cubs with the absolute precision of evolution? At the turn of the 20th century, the global cheetah population was estimated at over 100,000 animals. Today, fewer than 7,000. A decline of more than 93% in under 100 years.